Now I'd like to welcome in Jeff Pierce, Senior Manager of Derivatives Trading at Charles Schwab, to look more at all the various headlines. We have this acquisition, we have YouTube Music, we have, these regulators trying to right now impose restrictions on their wallets regulations. So walk us through the various stories today impacting Alphabet, Jeff.
Yeah, all this going on, of course, as we have earnings coming next Tuesday after the bell. As you pointed out, a few different stories here. Let's start with the payments ruling out of the UK. Looks like regulators there are going to be probing into the competitiveness of some of these digital wallets. That includes Apple, Google, and PayPal, as well as some others. Really what they're going to be looking for are some of the risks to consumers, risks to businesses, and some of the positives that come along with it. We've seen these regulators really focus on these companies in the past. We know, they're concerned about the consumer, they're concerned about the competition in the market, and of course the risk to the consumer overall. So we're likely going to see this play out for some time. Of course, this was nothing new for Apple or Google or any of them. They've been under this type of scrutiny before. As you pointed out, other stories include that YouTube Music, which announced that they're going to be experimenting with AI, that they have a new feature very similar to what we've seen out of other companies before, where you can sing a song or request certain types of music, and the AI will put that together for you. Finally, and I think maybe the most important, is this Wiz acquisition. They're reportedly in talks to acquire the cloud security firm Wiz for up to $23 billion. That would certainly enhance their cloud security capabilities. It's going to be it would be one of their most expensive acquisitions to date. But it's not a big surprise, because we've seen them try to expand the cybersecurity cloud side of their business for some time. They bought Mandiant for $5.4 billion just 2 years ago. Their cloud business grew by 26% last year, turned a profit for the first time. Could we see the regulators slow this down? It's certainly possible, especially when you think that this is Alphabet. But if you look at Wiz, it's a relatively small company, so we may not see too many hurdles there.
Jeff, I guess the fallout then would be, if they're all in on this space, which it's too early to tell, then you start looking at some of these other players, and they got to be like, oh man, Alphabet's coming into our group. What if Apple comes into this space? Like, these companies just are so disruptive when they decide to, focus on an area. But I want to talk a little bit about the regulator piece, because I think the snap reaction for many is, oh, this is one jurisdiction. It's going to take a long time. But say that, let's just, for the sake of conversation, say that they're going to have to make these changes. It's really hard to sustain different platforms across different jurisdictions. And once you've made the change, what's to stop the EU or the US to say, hey, you can make those changes for us too? And then those moats around their business get disrupted, and it sort of changes the trajectory of whatever the finances would have been around it. Is that the concern? Of course, we don't know if it's gonna happen or not, but that it can snowball from one place to basically their entire business operation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, there are times when we look at some of these bigger companies and they're getting regulators that are kind of looking behind the curtain. As an investor, it's easy to say, well, they'll end up getting a fine, they'll pay that fine, and we'll basically move on with it. But, we've seen a lot of changes by regulators specifically coming out of the UK, focusing on especially client data and privacy. That have made companies make some large changes. You think about Meta and other names. And to your point, once that ruling comes out there, the U.S. may start to look at it a little bit closer. We may start to see some changes. So it can have a large impact on the company. And you think about some of the legal, things that are being looked at in terms of their search engine capabilities and how they got there. That's another reason this company is trying to diversify where the revenue comes from. A lot of it comes from ad revenue. They're trying to look at things like the cloud to try to get more revenue from there as they see more pressure from regulators.
Yeah, that's also a good point. I think this pressure from regulators, I can't wait to see how it plays out, because I feel like there's still so many question marks regarding all of the various regulatory scrutiny weighing on Alphabet shares. But we will leave it there. Great insight as always, Jeff Pierce, contributor here on the network.